What would you say running, especially those distances, 80 to 100 miles a week, what did it teach you about discipline?
It's just being consistent, right? I mean, you're going to have different feelings every single day, and you're going to be sore and you're going to be hurting. I know a lot of people want results super fast, but the problem is if you don't have patience to build a brand, it's only going to grow so big. Content creation today and the skill of getting some sort of content out is something that people should focus on and stop trying to look for that easy solution and paying for it because...
Hey, welcome back to the Bullpen Sessions podcast. I am excited today to have, I would say, a former client, though we worked for a very short time together, a friend, and someone who has, I'd say, taken what he has learned and not just run with it. Jake, you have sprinted with it, which has been pretty phenomenal to see. Jake Rushton, when I met Jake was a 401k advisor. And he was interested in building his brand, which he did very well with the 401 Jake brand. If you are on LinkedIn at any point in time throughout the week, you're going to see the 401 Jake brand. In fact, I'm wearing my 401 Jake shirt. I have my 401 Jake cycling kit in my closet. So Jake has done an amazing job with brand, but now he has gone on and started his own company as the founder of Zeke Digital, doing all things with video for the insurance and financial planning industries. So Jake, man, welcome to the Bullpen Sessions podcast.
Thanks, Andy. So excited to spend some time with you. Any chance I can get to be with you, it's always worth it. So,
oh, absolutely, man. I always love our conversations because we are on the same wavelength when it comes to content, building brands and stuff like that. So let's just start real basic. Anybody doesn't know who you are, where are you from?
Yeah, so I grew up in Utah. Salt Lake City, Utah, my whole life until I spent a couple years in Australia and then in Hawaii. So I have got out, but I'm back home in Utah and love it here.
We're gonna get into what you're doing, but being that this is the Bullpen Sessions podcast, I'd like to go back to my guess athletic careers, if there was one. Now, you were a runner.
That's right.
Growing up, and when did you realize, because I look back, even though I love running now, when I was a kid and in middle school and high school, like I just didn't, who wants to go out for a run for fun? When did you realize running was going to be a big part of your athletic career?
You know, it just kind of fell into place. Like when I was a little kid, I dreamed of playing hockey, right? And there wasn't much of a hockey presence in Utah. My parents they didn't know what to do about that. I would rollerblade all day, all over the place. And then I got to, I was 11 years old and my dad ran his first marathon and I thought this is kind of cool. And I started running. I did really well in like the elementary 1 mile race and crushed everybody and just kind of fell into it. And at age 12, ran my first marathon and never turned back. It's just always been a part of who I am.
Yeah, and you had a successful cross-country track career in high school, which gave you the opportunity to run track in college or cross-country in college. And I'm curious because anybody who gets the chance to go to school on the Hawaiian Islands, I'm a little jealous of. You ended up attending BYU Hawaii. What was that like going to not only going to college on the Hawaiian Islands, but running cross-country on the islands?
I mean, it was a dream. It was an incredible place to live. The climate's amazing. I lived in a spot right next to the school, right by the beach. I mean, I didn't really plan that. It all just happened. My wife had a softball scholarship at BYU Hawaii there on the North Shore of Oahu. And I just walked onto the team. I hadn't planned on running. They started practicing. I joined up, and a week later, they realized I was one of the top runners, and I had a scholarship myself. So, but part of living in Hawaii is there's not a huge job market. It wasn't something that I wanted to stay, but it was really a tough thing to leave. So we were there for 2 years, both playing our sports, doing our thing. And what was funny, we would have big schools come and run with us over in Hawaii, and you'd think, they're at sea level, they were going to crush us. And some of these D1 schools, we would just kill them because they weren't used to the humidity. It was a very different running experience on the islands versus here on the mainland. So we had a great time. We traveled a little bit, but had a really successful couple of years while I was there.
Speaking of travel, what was that like as an athlete on the islands? Because I imagine anytime you guys had to go on the road, you're flying across the pond to get back to the mainland. What was that like?
Yeah, it was tough. We had a couple of times we went just to the Big Island, but then we come over here and run in Montana. It definitely, you'd feel a difference, switching elevation, but yeah, flying around wasn't super easy. And I look back at those times of like thinking that at the time they seemed difficult. Like, oh, I got to get all my schoolwork done. I got to go fly over here. I got to run. And, those are some of the best years of my life. So
By the way, is that an extension school of the Brigham Young in Provo?
It's sort of, yeah,
Okay.
it's its own university, but yeah, they're definitely affiliated. They don't, we have a different mascot. We're the Seasiders versus the Cougars here. So it's a very different culture, I would say. And it's very catered towards people in Asia and the Pacific Islands, like other outside of the US to come to that school. I don't know how I lucked out getting in, but I did, and glad that I did, because most of the people that I was going to school with were either from China or from somewhere in Asia, or Tonga or Samoa. So we had a small little good cross country team that I had a little Hawaiian coach that really didn't know a lot about running, tried his best, and we had to do a little extra work on our own. But it was a very different experience than probably running if I was running here at Provo, at BYU Provo.
You said the nickname is Seasiders. I just have this image of this guy on a paddleboard with the hang loose sign as your mascot. Am I anywhere close?
Yeah, I was a guy in the canoe. Hawaiian in the canoe. Yeah, our colors were red and yellow versus here it's blue. So
you remind me though of like the cross country team. When we lived in Colorado, the Boulder, the CU, Colorado University cross country team is kind of legendary, and it just made me think about the home field advantage they always had when teams came to Boulder to compete, because you're at 5,600 feet in Boulder.
Yeah.
And it's like teams didn't have a chance coming in and running against these people who had been training every day at 5,600 feet elevation. And so I'm curious, a couple things about cross country to give the audience a perspective. At your peak, when you're at running cross country in college, how many miles a week are you putting in?
80 to 100. I mean, you're putting a lot in. Sometimes 3 a day you would go on runs. We'd get up every morning and go for a long run, tempo run. Like we had trails we would go on all over the mountains right there on the North Shore. And it just becomes a way of life. And so it's not something that you can easily just jump into. It's something that I've been doing for years and had always had a interest in, and it came natural to me. And so what's crazy is in high school, I didn't think that it would pay for my college. Like that really wasn't the plan. I just was having fun, being successful, running the mile and 2 mile, and then doing cross country. And every single level you go up, it gets a little longer. So in junior high, it's 5K. Well, actually, no, it's a mile and a half. Then you go to 5K in high school. Then you go up to 8K and 10K in college, which you're running on hills and trails and dirt and grass and mud. And it's not like your normal, half marathon or 10K on the road. I mean, this is an all out fight. And sometimes it gets a little bit violent in the beginning with other teams throwing elbows, and it becomes a really fun season because you see a lot of the same runners and you're going head to head all the time. And it's a great environment to be a part of. The competition was incredible.
Yeah, and you think 80 to 100 miles a week. So the athlete in me wants to know, what was your best mile time?
So mine was 4:24, and that was a high school time. We didn't have a track team in college, but it's a different feeling. I mean, running under 5 minutes was a pretty normal thing. Like I could do that anytime, but getting under 4:30, you have a different pain that it goes past your lungs. Usually it's like you can't get enough oxygen. Then it goes to your legs aren't getting enough oxygen, which is a very different feeling when you get to that level of speed and on a mile on a track. So, it was a good experience.
Well, I just think about in the wintertime, I'll run sprints. I love running sprints on the track, but in the winter, if the weather's intemperate, I'll do it on a treadmill. And I just know as you crank up the speed on the treadmill, it tells you what that average pace is. And just to know the number on the treadmill you have to get to go to 4:24 and then do that for a whole mile. It's like, Man, wow, that's impressive.
And it's
So
strategic too. I think people don't realize how much strategy goes into even just a mile race, 4 laps on the track. You have to really have it mapped out in your head and not be thinking about it. It has to just go. Like lap 3 is where you make or break the race. And someone that hasn't done it doesn't really grasp that the difficulty of just getting your mindset straight to do that, even when your body's saying stop.
yeah, that's a good segue, because what we're going to talk about today is video. And
Yep.
and you and I are definitely on the same page talking about the power of video content and how people can do it effectively, but it's about having a strategy, to your point. One last question about the cross-country career, because when I look at the insurance industry, the one thing that ties all the best advisors together, including the financial planning industry, is discipline.
Mm.
What would you say running, especially those distances, 80 to 100 miles a week, what did it teach you about discipline?
It's just being consistent, right? I mean, you're going to have different feelings every single day, and you're going to be sore and you're going to be hurting. But if you're able to just set that standard of, I'm not going to stop, like, I don't care how I feel, like, this is part of the program, which I think a lot of times is it's more common in like a European type of training program versus America. We kind of train how we feel a lot of times. We'll go to the gym, and if we're not feeling that day, we'll just kind of hang out on the elliptical or whatever. But when you're trying to really focus on a goal and go all out, and you put this extra effort in, you're going to hurt, and you're going to have things that are going to want to make you stop. The weather, I mean, it was raining constantly, and we running through insane muddy conditions, and you let that motivate you, and you just be consistent. And that's where that discipline really pays off.
It reminds me, the last time I did Ironman 2012, I hired a coach locally in Wisconsin, and he was a very well-known triathlete himself, and his wife was a very good competitive runner. In fact, I think she ran at Colorado and then Wisconsin. And I remember him telling me about how she runs her races, and I've witnessed it. I watched her run. When you go out, you talk about the discipline and consistency. He said for the first mile, she'll be lucky to be in the top 10, because she goes out nice and easy. He said, but watch her on the back half of the race. And sure as shit, when they're coming, the race is coming to the end, she's out in front of everybody. And it's that life is a race. Life is a journey, a cross-country race, right? If you go out with a gun and just and you try to go as fast as you can, you talked about lap 3 being the key in a mile run, you're done. You're not going to make it. But you have to have that strategy, whether it's a 5K, whether it's a 10K, or business. And that's something I see a lot of advisors lacking in the insurance industry today, is a plan, a strategy. They want success tomorrow. It's that shotgun. How fast can I get there? And all I'm seeing as a result is advisors who are burnt out and hate what they do.
Yeah, they don't work on their skills. And in not working on your skills, you don't really know yourself. You don't know if you're going to be able to go out faster and hold on. I mean, I've done a lot of marathons over my life, and I generally start them out faster than most people would want to, but I know my body and well enough to know that if I go slower, it's not going to really help me in the end, because it's such a long race. So you get to learn more about yourself as you work on these skills. And the more you do it, the more it's going to become a natural just thing that you don't think about.
100%.
And in business, you can get lucky and, things will start happening. But if you constantly look for that shortcut, that easy route, you're not really playing the long game there. 100%. And that's where I'm trying to help out in my business now.
So let's shift that now with that in mind, because I think that's such a great segue. About running a race in a cross-country meet is no different than building a successful business. Now, building a successful business takes a hell of a longer time to build than running a cross-country meet. But there still is a strategy, whether it's a 5K, a 10K, or building the business. You and I first met when I was in Utah doing a speaking engagement, and we ended up hooking up in Park City. You came up and met me, absolutely kicked my ass on a run. But you wanted to connect because it was at that point in your career, you realized you needed to build a brand. What led you to that path, that building some kind of name brand recognition in the 401k business is going to be good for my career?
I think what happened is I started my career like in college and high school and thinking about just corporate life, like climbing the ladder, right? And I continued to be disappointed and let down and just hit dead end after dead end. Things just weren't really progressing. And I had gotten to a point where I knew I had to start taking more risk. And that wasn't how I was really taught or how I was raised. And unfortunately, now I'm doing the reverse. I'm trying to take as much risk as I can and pushing the limits. And why I reached out to you, I was just really inspired by the content you were creating. I never would have found you or known anything about you if you hadn't made content. But I loved the way that you were sharing information, and I wanted to do the same thing. It for me is the reason I got into 401k is I love to help and teach, educate versus just advise and tell people what to do. I don't necessarily love that. I like to help inspire them to be their best selves. And you kind of had that vibe, with your content. And so going through some changes at the time when I reached out to you, I was like, this is it. I gotta make this happen. And I need to talk to him. And I didn't want to be the guy that's like just trying to take from you. So I tried to figure out how we could bond together on a run and realized that you had interest in that. I had interest in that. You would be okay with that. And lucked out that you made time for it. So
Dude, you didn't want to take from me, but I will tell you, you took my soul on that run because we were up at Park City at about 8,000 feet, and you absolutely left me in your tailwind there. I was pretty embarrassed by that, but also pretty impressed with your running skills. So let's talk about that, though. Okay, so you realize, okay, I got to create some brand recognition. I want your opinion. I think I know the answer to this question, but I want the audience to hear this. It's 2023, Jake. How important is content in growing an advisor's business?
it should be the main focus. Like, I know a lot of people want results super fast, but the problem is if you don't have patience to build a brand, it's only going to grow so big. And the world's going to get noisier and noisier, and things are getting more and more automated. And like, you're becoming a commodity in a lot of different ways in your business. And the one way you'll stand out is your brand. People will love to work with you, but if not very many people know about you because you don't have any brand, you're only going to go so far. So content creation today and the skill of getting some sort of content out is something that people should focus on and stop trying to look for that easy solution and paying for it, because you're not going to be able to build that brand as strong as you would if you got into it and really, learned what you needed to build it yourself. So I think that's the part that I struggle with, is seeing people trying to shortcut it. And it's like, no, run the race with us. Like, jump in here. We know you're going to suck in the beginning, but that's okay. We all do. And you're only going to get better every single time you make that next post, the next video, that next piece of content. And what I have noticed too is people love stories. They love documentaries right now. I mean, there's some great stuff coming out on all the different streaming platforms, and they're documentary. They're real videos of people doing their thing because we're interested in the story behind how they got to where they are. And if you don't believe someone cares about what you're doing right now, change that mindset, because someone will be so excited to look back and see your path and learn from that. And if you're not documenting any of it, no one will ever know.
That's a great way. Documenting, the word documenting is huge. You got to document what you're doing instead of, trying to
advertising. No one wants an advertisement.
Instead of advertising, just document what you're doing, and I think that's another area where you and I have created a pretty tight bond. Is I think you also realize from a marketing and content perspective, everything that works, I know I found outside the insurance industry. I did not learn how to do this. I went to the other markets, the other industries, people like Gary Vaynerchuk, to learn what does it mean to actually create a marketing strategy that works. I laugh because I still hear a lot of agencies in the insurance side, Jake, when I use the word marketing, go, oh, we have a marketing department. And what they're referencing is the person in charge of the renewal quotes. It's like, guys, that's quoting. That's not marketing.
Yeah.
So cool. Content's important. Why does video content take the cake? Why does it stand on top of the mountain when it comes to the different types of content you can create?
It hits more senses. It hits more people harder with what you're trying to do. So it's fun to look at pictures and people love that. But think about any event in your life. it's you. And if you look back at your phone and go through your phone, like you can see some cool pictures, but what really caused you to stop and like really feel those emotions again of that experience is the videos. And so in your business, like we don't really think that is necessary, but it is. People make decisions based on emotions. If you can't get their emotions there because you're not telling them a story or showing them something, it's very hard to do that just with, a flyer or a brochure or some kind of RFP answer. Like it's just not gonna do the same thing. And I think we get stuck with trying to look like each other. Like you said, I've looked at outside the industry. I've been fascinated by the online learning industry and how incredible it's been since COVID happened and helping people learn new skills. And for some reason in insurance and in financial advising, like we just kind of try to look like each other and we don't dare step out of the box because we think, well, what others say or do, like this isn't normal. Well, that's fine. There isn't a normal. Just be you.
Yeah. And I think it's that old famous word we love to use in the industry, benchmarks. What other people's doing and how can we benchmark ourselves against our competition? And all you end up doing is creating the same content. You all look the same. You look vanilla. So with that being said, we've got a listener who's convinced, all right, I want to start doing video. Now, personally, I think the biggest reason people will not do video is because of fear of judgment, fear of comparison, fear of failure, right? They're afraid that they put a video out there. They're already comparing themselves to their peers. They're fearful of what somebody might put in a comment if it's not perfect. And then of course they're fearful that it's going to fail, that they're going to fall flat on their face. And I know when I started, Jake, I sucked at video. I'm sure you did as well.
Oh yeah.
If we've got somebody listening with that attitude or that mindset right now, what's your advice to that person who's convinced they should do it, but still deathly afraid to get going?
I would start posting it in places where people that you are worried about their opinions are not. Like either block them or do it on a different platform. And you're only going to get better the more you do it, but you have to start. Like that's the point, is you're never going to learn the skills to be better communicator. And in our industries, in insurance and in advising, like any B2B sales, you're selling content every single day. You're just doing it one by one. So whether it's a PowerPoint that you're providing to a group or committee or group of decision makers, like that's content and you're good at it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this job. You wouldn't be in this role. The only difference we're saying that you should do is to take that and to put it into a format that more than one person at a time can see it and actually make it scalable so that you could be on a vacation or watching TV at home and someone can learn some value, get some value from you that you're not even in the room with, right? And so getting over that fear is just something you have to tell yourself it's time. And I know a lot of people, I don't have to convince them of that. They just, for whatever reason, just can't get over that hurdle. And once you get over it and you see that it's not a big deal, it builds quick and you really start to have some more fun with it versus maybe what some of the things you're spending your time doing that you think are valuable to grow your business. And a lot of times they're just not.
And you said something I love, which is video actually gets you in the room with the prospect. And I think that's a concept people overlook with content these days. Since the pandemic, it's harder to get in front of people than it's ever been, right? It's hard to build a relationship. But if you use video content, what you're doing is actually putting yourself in the room with the prospect, because that video is getting in front of them without you actually having to be in the room in front of them. And when people get stuck as to what they should say, I love this. The answer I give people is, well, what should I talk about? I kind of chuckle because I say, if I put you in a conference room tomorrow across the table from one of your prospects, would you struggle as to what to say? No. This is all you're doing. You're saying the same thing. Just hit record.
Yep.
And so I would love your perspective too on this, because I think you have a very simplistic approach to this, which I love, because the other place people get stuck with starting video. What equipment do I need? Because I get that question all the time. Andy, what camera do you use? What kind of microphone? They get so caught up in the logistics of recording a video, but you have a very simple approach to this now, especially with the tools we had at our disposal. If somebody says, Jake, what equipment do I need? What's your advice?
You don't need anything. You have it in your pocket. I went through the whole process of the last couple of years of buying all the equipment, buying the big fancy cameras, the lights, the microphones, I mean, all that stuff. And I realized I was able to get good quality content, communicate stories to people just using my phone. So I sold everything off for the last month. I literally just use my phone at this point, and I have two iPhones. So one that I work with all the time in my pocket, one that I take to really shoot even, with my clients. And you'd be amazed. Like, people want that authentic view, and you don't have to spend any extra money to buy equipment. Because let me tell you, trying to learn a new camera and all the different functionality that comes with it is going to just derail you from the real important thing you should be focused on. And that's bringing value to the people that are looking for it. And if you're too busy trying to figure out, apertures and f-stops and ISO and all that stuff, like, you're not focused on the right thing. So just don't even worry about it. Use your phone. It doesn't matter what it is. Most likely it's got just a great enough camera and microphone that get outside, get it in front of your face, and just start talking. And if you can't do that, this is my favorite hack of all time. Just put it up next to your computer on your next Zoom call with your client and record yourself talking to them, and then learn how to edit those pieces out that with their names and stuff. If you want it just to be some actual authentic teaching moment where you taught them something. I mean, that you're already doing it all day long. Just record it, like you said, and your phone can do that.
Yeah, that's advice I need to take. With as many coaching calls as I'm on, I think there'd be nothing more effective than to actually show what goes on during those coaching calls. I call those the live case studies, and that's a really good example. Guys, this is advice, by the way, from somebody who does video editing for a living now. You don't need anything but a phone and the ability to hit record. And so there's nothing stopping you anymore from hitting that record button so you can put your message out there. So Jake, one question before we dive into a very tactical strategy you teach when it comes to creating more effective videos. So you've been in the 401k business for a while. You build the 401 Jake brand. And what I love is you took that to the next level by realizing, wait, I love video so much, I'm actually going to build a business around that. Now you have Zeke Digital. What made you make the decision? Because that's the same career path I went on. I got to the point where I'm like, wait, I love coaching people so much on what I had to do, the marketing strategy I had to build when I moved to Colorado. I'm just going to build a business around it. What made you realize, like, wait, I'm going to go all in on building a digital marketing business?
Well, it was a huge problem that I was trying to solve myself, and I couldn't find a solution. I had to figure it out on my own and consume tons of hours of YouTube, checking all these different buying tools, buying courses. Like, I went through this whole struggle for a long time to try and learn it. And in doing that, I realized, like, this is a real problem that everybody has. And I worked enough in insurance agencies and advisor offices to know that they're all going to struggle with this problem. And when I have the perspective that they have, because I am one of them, I'm able to help relate a little bit better to them and teach them in a way that they're able to hopefully take those steps. And not everyone's willing to invest in their skills in this area yet, but I firmly believe that it's going to continue to grow, and the demand for people needing to learn these skills and make their own authentic videos is only going to get bigger and bigger. And as I'm doing that, my real why behind that is there's only so many 401k plans I can manage, and I love to help people. And so if I can help more of these advisors and agents and brokers help more people, like, I'm having a bigger impact. And to me, that's what motivates me is, can I help have a bigger impact and leave a bigger legacy for people that helps them reach their bigger goals. And the struggle I had with 401k is I really couldn't do all, take on more on my own. We grew our business to 140 clients, and it was overwhelming. So I'm like, well, now if I can help, 100 advisors and they're up on another 100 clients, I mean, that's multiplying a huge number, and that's exciting to me.
Yeah, no, that's why I love hearing your story, man. It's exactly, I hit a point where I said, I want to have a bigger impact on the industry. And I knew what my gift was at that point, which was teaching. And I said, I've got to build a business around doing that. And so I love when I see somebody take a gift like you have and use it to create an even bigger impact on the industry than what you were having by managing 140 401k clients. So let's go into tactics. So we've got an advisor who said, all right, who's listening and going, okay, I'm ready. I'm at the start line of my 5K called video. And I have no strategy, Jake. You teach a process I love. It's called PREP. It's the acronym, PREP. Let's go through that acronym, starting with the P, and then we'll walk through each step. So for the audience listening in, take notes here. I want you to notice what Jake teaches, the process to record videos, because this is going to take your name and brand recognition to the next level. So let's start with that first P, Jake. What does that stand for?
Yeah, so it stands for plan. So having a plan of your video is really critical. And even if that just means your plan is that you're going to shoot a video every Thursday or every Monday or whatever it might be, that's a plan. So something kind of has to get the ball rolling and help you really start to gather the ideas of what content you should create. And the great thing about this is you're getting hit with ideas all day long. You're just not probably capturing what those ideas are. So the first step of plan is to set up a notes in your notes app on your phone to put a little note that says content ideas. And every time an idea, whether you're on a run, whether you're in a client meeting, you're on a phone call, a Zoom call, and an idea, a question comes up, you're like, that would be a great piece of content. In that moment, you have to put it into that list, because when you set up the time to go make the content later, you're going to sit down and go, what should we make it? And you're going to think more about how can I selfishly make something that will bring me a sale tomorrow? And that's not going to work. You have to bring the solutions to the questions people are asking you, and you're going to get those all day long. So just start making a list. I have like probably 4 massive lists. Like I could make content forever, and because I've learned to capture it. Whenever I get an idea, I put it in there still. So planning can really help you get the ball rolling, and you'll get more and better at your skills at planning. As you get an idea, you'll be able to think about how you can present that in a way that will be consumed. And a lot of times we forget the context of maybe where we're sharing that idea. And social media is in a huge shift right now from your friends and family to now your interest. So it's now more interest media than social media, because it's not just your groups of people. And it's what you like. And it's slowly happening with LinkedIn. TikTok was the bigger catalyst that made it happen across all platforms, where I don't really have any friends or family that follow me on TikTok. It's people that I like the same stuff, cycling and running, all that stuff. That's what I see. And now we're seeing Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. They're all following that same pattern. So in your business, you're getting these things, these questions, these ideas, like people are going to be interested in those. Those are the ones you want to share this information with. So planning is an essential part, but it's more of a daily ritual than like a whole set up a time to do it. It just has to always be happening.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, you have to plan before you shoot the video. And I think a lot of people don't take the time to do that. And they end up sitting there in the moment, ready to record something, and they have nothing. They don't know what to say or where to go. So always capture them. They overplay. Yeah. And I tell our clients, some of the best content you'll ever create is, how about those moments you come out of the meeting with a client or a prospect and they said something, or they asked a question, or you said like the perfect golden nugget. Like that's the time to record, or at least note what you said or what they asked, because that is going to be great content. I also call those the live case studies. You just had the conversation with a client or prospect. That's the best stuff to record.
Yeah. No, it really is. And it can hit you anytime. I was at the dentist the other day. I wrote this note in my content ideas. A good dentist is one who only does the bare minimum. Like, I don't want a dentist that's over drilling in my teeth. I want the one that's like, you just need this. That's it. So I'm like, that's valuable. This person that doesn't really overwork me and try to overload me with more things that he thinks are more valuable for me is actually valuable, right? And a lot of times in our industries, we overemphasize all the tools and value adds and all this stuff. And it's like, maybe they just want help with this one thing. Yeah. That's a piece of content, right? So that's why you're getting a hit all day long. It's just capturing that so that you can put it into the right structure. And that structure, you don't need to introduce yourself. That's the first thing. So plan out your video, cut that. I don't need your name, your title, your company, where you are. I don't care. There's nowhere you're going to post a video that doesn't have your name somewhere on the page. There's not a blank website or social media place that doesn't have your name there. So don't say it anymore. Just drop that completely. You go into this easy format, which comes from the Story Brand Guide, right? It's hook, story, offer. The first 3 seconds is your chance for them to stop scrolling. So that's got to be the best part of your video. And a lot of my clients, what I'll do is they'll send me a video, and I don't do this with you very much because you're so skilled at making videos, but I'll grab the last few seconds of the video, which is usually the best when they're given the best value possible. I'll put that at the beginning. And that takes time to learn that skill. But in the beginning, if you can think, what is the biggest objection I'm going to get? What's the biggest value I'm bringing? That's your hook. And then you got to tell them a story where they can relate. And so if you can take that idea, put it into that format, and the call to action, if you can stop making it a selfish call to action where it's something that brings you value, just brings them value, you're going to get a lot more traction with people to want to consume your content. They're going to take steps. They're going to keep coming back to you because you're going to have great, valuable things that they're learning from. And that's a patience game, but the more you do it, the more results you're going to see.
100%. And the patience, that could be the first P as well. Because that is what it takes. None of the things you're learning today are going to be overnight success. This is about building brand awareness. It's not about building quick wins. So P is planning. R stands for record, but I got to believe there's more to it than just, hey, hit record. Let's talk about the second step, which is record. Go deep into that a little bit.
Yeah. So like we talked about, so recording, you don't need to overthink it. You need to definitely work on your skills of how you look on video. And the easiest thing is to go outside. You're going to have great light. You're going to have not sound bouncing off the walls. You're able to change your environment. I think that's a key thing. So when you're recording, try not to always be in the same exact spot. I think people will notice when you're changing that look, and it's okay to share personal things sometimes. I mean, even on LinkedIn, I love it when people are like, hey, this is a Facebook. You make it whatever you want. Right. And so if you feel inspired and you like to make videos when you're coming out of the gym, then do it then. Who cares? But the key is get your phone. Don't worry too much about the front or the back. The front camera is just as fine, but stare at the camera. You got to be looking at the camera. Right now, like we're recording this, I'm looking at the camera. I'm not looking at your face. I'm looking at the camera. That's a critical thing. And if that's a struggle for you and you have to read a script, try not to. The best hack there or trick there if you're a script reader is just record one sentence at a time. Remember that sentence, record it, and then you're able to put those together and actually make a more engaging video with one sentence at a time. So make sure you have your camera up, not down below and up your nose. Like it's just simple stuff. Spend the money on a $15 tripod so that if you want to do it sitting at your desk, it's not just your bad quality camera on your computer. It's your phone because it's going to have a better camera. And if you want to record, in a windy spot, you're probably going to need to invest in some microphones. But you can get microphones on Amazon for $50, $100. They're not that expensive. So realize that this is your chance to really look and sound great. But also, when you think about people you follow with different influencers, probably the content you love the most is when they're being the most authentic, when they're like the real themselves. My favorite people I follow is The Rock, right? And he posts a lot of content where he's just literally in the gym. He can have a whole crew making amazing videos, but he actually just grabs his phone and makes a video. I like those more than I like the production stuff. And that should inspire you to say, I can do this too. And keep it short. Less is more. When you're recording, you're probably either you're going to be a rambler or you're going to stay really like 30,000 feet. You're going to be not very detailed. Go into the weeds of a story. Tell the details. That's what will stand out and people will resonate with it. They'll want to hear more of that story. When you're only just like talking like so bland and boring, it's not going to be consumable and you're going to have to learn from that as you see not very much traction or engagement. But recording is not something you have to spend a lot of money on for sure.
Well, and the other advice I'd give somebody on recording is make sure you're talking to one person. I see a lot of people record and they go, hey guys, Andy here. Don't record as if you're talking to a lot of people. You got to use the pronouns you and your. It's got to sound like you're talking directly to me and me only. That is another big tip I see a lot of people screw up on is when they record as if they're talking to a lot of people at once. And you can't do that because that does not create that connection with the viewer that you're actually talking to them. If I think the name of the game with video content, Jake, is renting space inside somebody's head, you want that content to get them to go, man, are you in my head? Like, that's exactly what I'm thinking. You can't do that if it sounds like you're talking to a lot of people.
Right. You're exactly right. I have a lot of videos where come in from clients that's an issue we try to work towards. And you're going to struggle with that at the beginning because you feel like you're talking to all of LinkedIn at once. But remember, one person at a time is consuming that content. Could be 1,000 people at one time, but they're looking at it one-to-one. So talk to them. And if you need to put up a picture of your favorite client, like you're talking to them, do that. Like, do whatever trick you need to so that you keep that head of like, yeah, hey, have you ever, instead of, hey guys, have any of you, it's a very different feeling for someone consuming that content.
100%.
And feelings are what get people to do things.
Plan, R's, record, E, edit. This is where people get hung up. Edit. And what I would love for you to talk about, Jake, because I'll admit, even I have a hard time giving advice because today you edit some of our content. We have another team that edits our podcast content once. It's hard for me to share a lot of tools right now because we do have people helping us. But if I'm just starting out and I don't want to pay for an editing team, what are some simple tools or hacks I can use to edit my videos?
Well, this is honestly the biggest struggle I had was editing was where I get hung up. I'd make videos. I'd feel good about it. I would try to do a one-shot video, right? Which is a lot of people try to do that. But for me, editing, I tried to learn Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, all these big fancy programs that the professionals use. And it wasn't until I finally started using apps on my phone. So CapCut's a free app. You don't have to spend a dime that has, incredible editing tools that are way easier and faster. And I can do it wherever I am with my phone. So the other benefit to starting to edit yourself, and you might think, oh, I'm too valuable to spend time editing. You're editing things that are going to reach thousands of people. So no, you're not above this. This is a skill you can learn. And you would find as you do it, you will learn your creative voice behind it. So even if you want to hire people, I would still suggest you start by editing a few of your videos in the beginning yourself, because when you do that, you're going to learn what you like and don't like. And the transitions, the way that you talk, the way that you just bring different energy is going to stand out. And as you learn these apps like CapCut or Splice is another one I like. That one's like $11 a year, but it has a huge library of music. Music brings emotion. I like to use music. Some people don't. So that's something you're not going to know. And you might struggle with a different editor if you pay an editor and they don't get it right. Well, you don't even know what right is yet. You haven't done it. So you've got to just make that video. And maybe you do those sentences at a time and you drop, 10 sentences into CapCut. And then you move them around and you actually connect them and you different transitions. You add your logo or your disclosures and a little bit of music. And you start to find like, oh, like this isn't that hard. And you get actually pretty good at it. And I treat each edit kind of like its own mini movie. And when I'm done with it, even it's like your little shorts or other clients, I watch it over and over again. I'm like, I love this. Like I like to watch this. And if I like it, I'm thinking there's going to be more people that do. And you wouldn't know that if you don't actually get in and do it yourself. You might hit the lottery and like find this amazing editor that just connects with your brain and each other. That's not easy to do. It takes a few months for them to figure that out. And that can be frustrating. And if you're not patient, it won't work.
It's good advice for any entrepreneur on anything with business. You should probably do it yourself first for a little bit. And then when it's no longer serving your best use of time, delegate it, hire, outsource. Yeah. But yeah, from a standpoint of editing video today, there's so many free tools out there that you could be doing your own editing. It doesn't actually take that much time or skill, to be quite honest with you, because those apps are so good.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're
making it so much better, right? And there's another one I would mention, captions. You're seeing some of these captions that are just really dynamic and changing. That app called Captions, I think you pay $50 a year or something, but it also has AI built into it that will take your eyes and make them stare at the camera, even if you're reading something. Wow. Like there's incredible stuff happening right now that I get really excited about, but also there's a creative side to that too. Like maybe you like this style and this font, but you can easily click on that on your phone and it takes a couple minutes. Like you have time. Don't tell me you don't have time to do this, because you do.
Well, and you think about that. I love how you just said that. It's a good warning shot for all of us. AI is going to level the playing field around what we say, because now it's easy to create the script. Mm-hmm. The differentiation is going to come from how creative are you. That's where you're going to differentiate yourself, because what's going to happen is we're all going to end up using AI to create the content, the scripts of what we should say, but the how we're saying it, the creativity, that's where you're going to separate yourself from your competition. So plan, record, edit. What's the last P in the prep process, Jake?
Post it. Just get it out there. If you stop
this is where people go, I see people literally like go, I'm so afraid to post.
Yeah. Yeah. I have people say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Like, why? It takes 30 seconds. Do it right now. Just share it. Don't be the judge of your own content. You do not know what's going to work. You're not trying to become viral. Even if you get, one of the right people to see it and you get a client that all of a sudden is now a $30,000 a year client, that one video that you didn't post could have missed that opportunity. So you just have to push post, and you've got to remember the context of the platform. It's okay to kind of share the same video across platforms, but you probably want to change the caption. You want to change kind of the mindset of each platform, right? If they're on Facebook, it's not the same as on LinkedIn. And you can kind of adjust and know kind of where you are sharing it. But don't get overwhelmed that you have to be everywhere. Focus on two. And I would say for the insurance agencies out there and financial advisors, YouTube and LinkedIn are probably your top two right now that I would 100% make sure you're on board, because YouTube is going to be searchable. So those are where people are going to ask the questions and they're going to try to find somebody that will teach them the answer. LinkedIn is where they're kind of wasting a lot of time, and they may come across something there that will lead them back to want to dig more into the way that you're presenting information.
And if anybody needs an argument on why YouTube, it is the second largest search engine in the world. You have to be there. If you create video, you need to have a YouTube channel, because, Jake, you used the word searchable. Your goal is to be searchable. When people Google your agency, your name, all this content pops up, and that creates credibility. And, a mutual client of ours just won a 7-figure account a month and a half ago, and his video content had a lot to do with that. So if you need a case study on why video content is important, look no further than that. So, all right, Jake, wrapping up, man, this has been a great conversation. So I hope for the people listening in, we have convinced them that you have to start getting on the train of creating video content. We've got the prep process: plan, record, edit, post. What would be your last words of advice for advisors listening in who, maybe use an example of how video content has changed your career? I could use numbers of examples, what it's done for me, but just share with the audience what video content has done for you to give them that inspiration that, all right, enough excuses. I'm going to set up my camera and I'm going to go hit record.
Well, I would say you don't know what the opportunities are that it can create. I didn't know that I would create a business from this. I didn't know I'd be traveling the country speaking. I didn't know that I would get to meet great people like you by doing this. So it will open doors you don't even know exist. And if you don't even start, you'll never have that opportunity. So you're basically not even aware of what is possible. And the only thing that can come from content is opportunity. Like, it really is. And whether you do it on social media or whether you do it inside your business, and instead of, having your account manager do all the enrollment meetings, like maybe you're able to make some video content that goes out to thousands of people. All of a sudden you can use technology and video to communicate your value to more people and build that brand, and not have to be on social media if that's not your thing right now. It's obviously the easiest and lowest cost place to get the most attention if you want to grow your business. But there's so many other aspects of what you do where video can enhance and scale your influence in a way that no other way can, right? And so I would say just start, be consistent, be patient. Your skills are only going to get better, and they're only going to get better if you start doing it and you get in a pattern of actually making it a habit. Just like you brush your teeth, just like you exercise, just like all these things we do, communicating video in your business it's not something that should be optional anymore. You've got to take it serious.
I love how you said video content can only lead to opportunity. I love that. And that's so true. I think that might be the title of the podcast, my friend. I didn't ask you this offline. Is the page you created when we did our webinar together, is that still available?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. So we're going to put it in the show notes. Jake has got a great toolkit for you. We'll put it in the show notes of the podcast. You can go click it and find tools, equipment, all the tips he shared today in an easy to use place. So we'll put that in the show notes. Jake, I want to thank you for your time. This has been super helpful, especially the tactics you teach on how to create better video. I know video's changed my career, and I know it's done the same for you. And I think what you and I have both realized as well is when you can build name and brand recognition, which video is a big piece of it, it's almost as if you can do anything. And I don't say that in an egotistical way. It gave me the courage to go build my own business because I had name recognition, and I'm sure it did the same for you.
Yeah, 100%. It really helps you in a lot of different areas of your life to just communicate better. And that's the kind of business you were all in, is communication. And when you realize the power behind like creating a digital asset that can produce results in the future. So a video you make today could bring you a client in 10 years, 5 years, like you don't know. But if it's not there, it doesn't exist on the internet, like it never will.
And that's the only thing we know, is if you're not doing it, it's not going to create any results. So, all right, gang, I hope you took a lot of notes on this one. Jake, remember, plan, record, edit, post. That is the prep process to record better videos. Go grab Jake's toolkit in the show notes. And as I always tell you, when you mix clarity with confidence, you will do great things. Go do those things today. Be well.